Hello kids, I hope that you're doing great during this week. Remember that this week is only for reviewing some topics that we saw during this term. So I want to talk this time about some topics of statistics because I could see from the activities that you delivered to me, especially the people that made it physically, but also from some of the answers that you put on Alex. So I want to talk about especially some graphic representations of sets of data. So let's start. Okay, this is a line plot. Okay, and the line plot is not exactly the same than a bar diagram or the other representations that you know, because with line plots you use X's or little boxes to represent the amount of times that a certain value or a certain data appears in the set. So here you can see that on the number 4, there are two x's because it appears twice in the set of data. There is nothing on the 0, 1, 2, 3, and the 5 and the 6. There's nothing because you don't see it anywhere in the set of data. But in the 7, there are 4 x's because you find 4 sevens in that set. And I want to be really clear with this because some of you made um, a bar diagram, and it's different because a bar diagram is one continuous bar that reaches the height that is given by a vertical axis. And as you can see here in this case, there is no vertical axis. So I want to make that difference clear. Okay, and this is a frequency distribution table. That is something that you find really easy because we worked it on class. So in the bottom part of the slide, you can see a set of data. It's not organized, but if you organize it and you count the amount of times that a number appears, you can see that the number 1 appears 3 times, the number 2 appears once, the 3 once, 4 once, 5 once, 6 appears twice, 7 doesn't appear, so we can put the 0 in the frequency table, or you can also not include the 7. Number 8 appears 1, number 9 appears 5, number 0 appears once. And it's really important that you organize the data in a chart like this, or a table like this, because it can help you a lot when you want to represent it in a graphical way. Okay, and this is a bar graph. You can see the difference between the bar graph and the line plot because in the bar graph you have actually two axes. You have the horizontal axis and the vertical axis that you know from last year that the horizontal axis is represented with the letter X and the vertical axis is represented with the letter Y. But as this times is the frequency, you can also represent it with the letter F. That is why sometimes you can see it in this image that I call it with Y and also I call it with F. We have to decide one of that, okay? But it's just for you to know. So you can see that the number 1 appears 3 times, and this time we don't have X's, we don't have boxes because we are representing it in bar diagram, which is different than a line plot. You see there are continuous bars for all of them, not separated X's or boxes. And here, as you could see in the previous week, there is a little video. This is not by myself. I didn't do this video, but it explains a little bit more in depth these topics. This is a line graph, And I don't want you to be confused with the line plot because these are two different representations. In the line plot, remember the previous one, we had only the horizontal axis and we represented the amount of times of every value with an amount of x's or boxes. But here in the line graph, we have the two axes. We have the horizontal and the vertical axis representing two different things, and the amount, for example, in this problem, it says that the graph below shows the number of orders received by a company for 5 months. So you can see that in August, they received 2,200 orders because there is a point at the height of 2,200 orders. In September, it was 250 because it's exactly in the middle between 2000 and 2100. So the middle is 2050. And you can see the same for all of the other months. They have a different value represented by a point. Why are those points joined? Okay, the reason for joining the points is because with these line graphs, you can see more easily the way that something increases or decreases. So you can see that in August, they started with 2,200 orders, but the line is going down until in September you find that it's 2,050 orders. So if the line goes down, it means that the orders decreased. But then you can see that for the next month, it increases because you can see that the line is again going up, then goes down, then goes up again. And you can easily see the behavior, el comportamiento, of the amount of orders by representing that with, with this kind of graph, with this kind of representation. Remember, this is a line graph, which is not the same than a line plot that we saw before. Okay, and there are two different questions. Question A, what was the greatest number of orders in a month? And question B, when did the number of orders have the greatest increase? So you see, the questions are asking for increases and decreases that you can visualize really easily with this kind of representation. So let's discuss the first answer. Okay, what was the greatest number of orders in a month? So you can see that the highest point, which is the greatest, the highest, el más alto, is actually in December. And it is 2,000, more or less, 2,004 and 250. You can see in this little text that is in blue that says this point is the greatest. Yes, we discussed that. And it's between 2,200 and 2,300. Its exact value is 2,250, as I say. Okay, now let's discuss the second question, which is when did the number of orders have the greatest increase? Okay, there you can see that the answer is highlighted from November to December. And why? Okay, let's look one by one the intervals between the couple of months. So from August to September, it actually decreased. So it doesn't work for us because we want increases. Let's see from September to October. Okay, from September to October, it increased. How much? Look, in September, it was more or less in 2050, and in October, it was more or less at 200, 150. So how much did it increase? we can know the amount of orders that increased by subtracting the two numbers. We can subtract 2,150 minus 2,050. And the amount of increases from September to October is actually 100. But let's analyze the other options. From October to November, it decreased. It doesn't work for us. And from November to December, it increased again. How much? Let's do the same time before. Let's subtract the biggest number from the smallest number. So 2,250 minus 2,000. And the result is that there were 250 increases. It increased 250 orders. So that is bigger than the other increase because the previous one was 100. So it increased the most from November to December. That is the answer of that. Okay, now I want to talk about a little topic that you probably don't remember too much, or maybe you do, because we didn't talk about this properly during this year. But also keep in mind that when we need to address this topic again, we will do it from the beginning. So this is not an explanation that if you lose it, you're not going to do great, because I am going to do it again properly. But this is something that I want you to remember, because we will need it pretty soon, and it's better if you start thinking about it right now. But don't worry, we will do it all over again when it needs to be. So we are going to talk about this really, really quickly. So let me read it and let me explain what all of this means. Okay, average is a number expressing the central or typical value in a set of data. In particular, the mode, median, or most commonly, the mean, which is calculated by dividing the sum of the values in the set by their number. Okay, what does it mean? An average. What this paragraph is telling us is that there are many types of average, the mode, the median, or the mean, which all of the three are measures of central tendency. Don't worry, we will see that topic later. But principally, or most commonly, sorry, the mean. The mean in Spanish means la media, el promedio. Average is promedio, but the mean is one of the many types of average. And we are going to talk about this a little bit. So let's go to the next slide. Well, now we are going to use a problem in order to see how to calculate one type of average, which is the mean in this case. So let me read it. These are the amount of articles sold in one day. Calculate the average, maximum, minimum, and range, because we are also going to talk about that. But it's really easy, so don't worry, don't get scared. That is not rocket science. So the set of data that it's given, it's 444, 5454, 343, 4444, all of those numbers. So first, let's calculate the mean, one of the many average that you can calculate, but let's calculate the mean. So the first step in order to calculate the mean is adding all of the values. So you add all of those numbers and you get 56. But we are not done yet. So 56 is not the mean. It's only the first step. Okay, the second step. Now we have to count the amount of numbers that were in the set of data. And if you count all of those numbers, there are 14 elements. And that 14 and the previous 56 that you found in the first step have to be used in the third step, which is dividing the addition, the sum, by the total amount of elements that are in the set. So 56 divided by 14, and that is 4. And 4 is actually the mean of that data set. If you see that X with a little bar over it, it is a symbol that we use to represent the mean. So that symbol means the mean, la media. That's it. And remember, a slash is also division. And what does the mean work for, or what is it used for? Well, the mean is used to imagine that more or less all the days sold the same amount. So what would be that amount? Actually 4. If you imagine that all of the days you sold 4 elements, in those 14 sets you will get the same amount of mm, things that you sold. So if you sold 4 things per day during 14 days, you will get 56, which is something more uniform, something more standardized, which is really useful for later statistical analysis. Okay, and now another kind of average is going to be the range. But before finding the range, um, we need to find the maximum and minimum, which are two really simple concepts. The maximum is the highest number that you can find, which in this case is 5, and the minimum is the lowest, which is 3. And those two numbers, 5 and 3, maximum and minimum, are going to help us in order to find the range. What is the range? The range is the interval of numbers in which the set of data works. So it doesn't pass from 3 and it doesn't pass from 5. But how many numbers can be there? So you have to subtract all of those numbers, like you can see here, maximum minus minimum, and the range is 2. Because all of the datas, all of the numbers move in like a space of 2 numbers, from 3 to 5. Finally, I want you to put all of these concepts into practice by doing an activity in the platform Alex. Remember that I am always available through Firias if you have any question, or if you want to program a Google Meet meeting. I am always available. We just have to um, program the time. So if you have any question, feel free to ask me. Thank you very much, guys. See you later.